Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be going over how long a high protein diet actually takes to start seeing results, like the exact step by step, how long each of the benefits that you have heard about typically takes to start seeing those results, as well as some tips to help speed up how quickly you can start seeing those results. So let's dive straight into it. Okay, and if you guys are new here, my name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's nutrition human performance, and we're actually on day one, week one of the 6 week summer challenge, which I'm super excited about because this year's 6 week challenge is all about not only body composition, which is where we're tapping into fat burning, we're maintaining muscle, and we're making sure that we're maintaining our metabolism in that process, but we're also focused on using the right types of foods, the foods that are nutrient dense, the most nutrient dense foods in the world, and they just so happen to be like regular everyday foods. They're not like some fancy superfood powder or something. So I'm really excited about this because not only are we focused on like the body composition, losing fat, but also really the health and longevity aspect too, marrying those two things together. And what's really cool is that, of course, with the 6 week summer meal plan, we also have 50, over 50 brand new recipes and they're focused on this exact same goal. These are just some of the recipes. I saw some of you guys on Instagram have already been trying out a lot of them. My personal favorite is the lentil brusqueta bowl, which is right here. So good. The peach yogurt, I think I called it like the summer yogurt protein bowl. I can't remember, but this one is amazing. And then I actually had this one last night for dinner, the burger bowl. Sage, my not even, she's about to be 2-year-old daughter, absolutely love this one. But yeah, it's the program we're following during the 6 week summer challenge going on right now. I do have it linked down description below if you guys want to join the challenge. It's a brand new limited release program. So once it's gone after this challenge, it's gone. So you want to make sure you grab it with all those brand new recipes and so much science-backed information to help you achieve your goals while eating the healthiest foods in the world. Okay, so now let's dive into the actual topic for today. So, how long it actually takes to see the benefits of a high protein diet. The first, like, fastest thing you'll notice literally within the first few hours is less sugar cravings, as well as you'll feel less hungry. When you're actually doing a high protein diet, right? When you're actually eating enough protein to see those benefits, you should see this pretty instantaneously. This is something whenever I meet with clients and they ask, like when we adjust their protein intake to better fit their needs, and they ask how quickly they should notice that their hunger goes down or that they don't experience sugar cravings. Literally, like after the meal, like you should feel really, really satisfied. And that satisfaction from your meal and the decreased hunger results in those decreased sugar cravings too. So when we eat higher protein, this is just proven in scientific research time and time again. It results in us to get elevated peptide YY, elevated satiety hormones, elevated GLP-1, which is another hormone that is often targeted by different weight loss medications like Ozempic. When we actually eat enough protein, it raises those so much that we feel full and satisfied and we just don't feel like eating. And that includes sugar cravings. So within the first few hours, that's typically what you should be feeling if you've actually eaten enough protein. Increased fat loss. This one is obviously what a lot of people are focused on with body composition or body recomposition for a weight loss goal. It boosts their fat loss. So this you can see really depends on like how much fat you have to lose, but between the first day to the like next 2 weeks, so 1 to 14 days is what I meant to say. So this is because a high protein diet helps you to specifically keep muscle mass while you're also losing fat. So that's the difference between weight loss and fat loss. Weight loss can be from anything. Like you could like lose an arm or something, and that would be considered weight loss because you've lost weight, which obviously we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to have fat loss, and that's where you're specifically losing fat. So you don't want to lose bone, you don't want to lose muscle because all of that can result in poor health, but also slowing metabolism. So you want to make sure that you're actually seeing the benefits of weight loss truly coming from fat loss, and that's where a high protein diet typically you can start to see that within the first day to 14 days, around that range. And the best way, this is kind of a side note, but like the best way to actually track this is not with a typical scale. I recommend actually getting your body fat measured so you know how much body fat you're losing. That way you can get an idea of how quickly or how well it's actually working for you and if you might need to make some changes. So a couple ways to do that would be like taking a tape measure. That's like the quick and easy option at home that is more effective at measuring fat loss than just a scale. So measuring like your waist or your hips, or using an in body. You guys know that's my favorite. Don't go buying it because it's like a $6,000 machine, but they often have it at gyms or like sometimes health food stores will have them. So a lot of times gyms will have them though. Like even my super cheap $15 a month gym has one. So you want to just ask the front desk if they have an InBody, and you can go and get yourself tested for your body fat and muscle mass to see how things are changing for actual body composition. And then speaking of that, increased muscle mass, this or increased metabolism, excuse me, is the next one. That can actually also range on how quickly you start to see those results. Again, with typical weight loss, you can usually expect your metabolism to slow. That's what causes those weight loss plateaus. And that's often because one of the reasons why is because we lose muscle mass with typical, like just eat less, move more strategies. And that results in a drastic lowering in our metabolism versus when you are eating a protein, this can either help you to maintain, like just halt that muscle loss, which can help you to then maintain your metabolism. Or if you're using some of the strategies we're going to be talking about later on in this live stream, then it can actually help to increase your metabolism by the end of losing weight, which is like the exact opposite that typically happens with usual weight loss. And how quickly this happens depends on the strategies you use, which we're going to talk about in just a second. I'm realizing I need to take my Fitbit off because I'm going to get like a 1,500 steps just from talking right now, and that doesn't count. Okay, and then increased muscle mass. This also depends on how quickly you see these benefits. Will depend on the type of exercise, or if you're doing any exercise at all, like how quickly you start to see those results. It will really range. And then less. This is huge. Less fat regain after weight loss. So this is something that is unique to eating a higher protein diet. When people or if people do gain weight back after they have lost the weight, what research has found is that it's usually not in the form of fat, which is huge. It's usually in the form of lean muscle of some sort. So it makes it a lot easier to maintain those results that you're looking for, a body recomposition, because you're not gaining back fat. You're gaining back muscle, which is great. Okay. And I wanted to highlight just a couple of quick studies before we get tips to just show you, like, this is very well researched. This is stuff that scientists and researchers have known for a long time. They're continuing to dig up more information on. But here's one study where they found that those who are eating a higher protein diet actually burned more calories. So they burned about 212 calories more per day. And they experienced increased satiety hormones. So they're going through more energy while also feeling more full and satisfied. So it's like the perfect combination where it makes just maintaining the progress that you're achieving so much easier, because not only are you using up more body fat, but you are also feeling more satisfied. So it's a lot easier. Okay. And then another one I just wanted to show here highlights what I was talking about on the weight regain. So this is a quote I pulled from this 2020 study. It says weight regain constituted the fat-free mass in the protein group participants and the fat mass in the control group participants. So what this is really saying is that those who lost weight with just typical like eat less, move more strategies, their weight regain was typically in the form of fat, versus those who ate a higher protein diet, their weight regain was in that fat-free mass. So like more muscle, and that can result in a improved metabolism and an easier time maintaining that weight loss. Okay, and then results can vary like on how quickly you'll actually see those results on a few different factors, in addition to whether or not you're doing the tips we're going to talk about in just a second. But the quality of your protein that you're eating is a really big one, because ultimately the benefits of a high protein diet come down to the types of amino acids that are in the proteins that we're eating. So if you're eating like complete protein sources that are highly digestible, something we talk about all the time on my channel and in my programs, that is going to result in better results faster, because you're actually getting the protein that is needed to see these results. Versus if you have something like, let's say, peanut butter. Peanut butter has very low protein amount, but also that protein that is in there is very poorly digested, and it's also just not a complete protein. So if you're getting your protein mostly from these low quality protein sources, you're just probably not going to get anywhere close to the same result. It will take a lot longer to achieve those results. And then how much protein you eat. So this is also interesting because the definition of a high protein diet is very loose. Like there's not one specific amount of how much protein you should be eating that's like universally agreed upon. It really depends on the individual and what their individual needs are, which again, we'll talk about how you can figure that out in just a second. But you want to make sure that you're eating the higher amount that fits your lifestyle and your goals and your health history, of course. to see the maximum benefit. Like the type of protein and or rather the amount of protein that works for me and my goals is going to be entirely different than my husband. He has a lot of protein. Okay, and then age. So when we get older, it's just inevitable that we actually have increased protein needs, not decreased. A lot of people think that they decrease protein needs maybe because like when you're younger, like you're doing more activities or something. But actually we have higher protein needs as we get into our 50s, 60s, 70s, etc., because we have increased protein breakdown. So our cells are breaking down at a faster rate. So we actually need more protein in order to maintain the bones, maintain the muscle. So as we age, it's estimated we need about 25% more protein than we needed before. So again, accounting for age can also dictate how quickly or how well you'll see those results. And then also the other types of foods. I think I skipped activity and type and amount. So let me go back to that. So also the type of activity that you're doing. If you're doing any type of activity versus if you're exercising or you're not, the type of activity that you do will also cause you to have varying results and how quickly you'll see those results. We're going to be going into that in just a second too. But then the other foods that you eat in addition to protein. So you're not just eating protein when you're eating a higher protein diet. That would not be wise. There is such thing as an upper limit, and really, it's just you need to be getting other types of foods as well. What we talk about on my channel is protein, fat, and fiber. We need that trifecta in order to feel satisfied, in order to feed our good gut bacteria, in order to get the micronutrients that we need in addition to those macronutrients to support not only the body composition goal, but also long-term health and wellness. But if you are filling those gaps with more of those ultra processed foods, then that also can hinder your results or make it so you won't see those results at all. So then let's get into the actual tips on how you can speed up your results. So those before were like how those that timeline can vary on how quickly you'll see results. I forgot to mention this picture was from my before and after last year after my first baby. I'm actually currently on my own fat loss journey because I just had my second baby, so I'm almost 6 weeks postpartum and feeling really good because I am actually eating the amount of protein I need. All right. So the first tip to speed up your results is to eat the right amount of protein for your goals. Now, I wanted to specifically highlight this one first because you'll often see people, myself included, because it's a fast and easy tip to give somebody without having to go too much in the details, say like eat 30 grams of protein at each meal. That is usually a lot higher than what a lot of people are eating. Now, although that's a good place to start, it's not actually like the best option for everybody. Some people need a lot more. Some people might not even need that amount. Some people, it's the perfect amount that they need at each meal. But in order to actually maximize your results, you want to make sure that you're eating the right amount of protein that fits you, your body, and your goals. So we could go into like specific calculations. I've gone into that in the past. Or to make things easier for you guys, I do have a completely free protein calculator. It's just right there. It's very simple, easy to break down how much protein you should be roughly aiming for. So you can check it out. I think I have it linked down description below, but you can also find it with that link that I have right here. I'll just pause for a second so you guys can like type it into your browser because this is a really great resource. 100% free protein calculator, help give you a better idea of roughly what you should be aiming for. Now, what I will say is if you are over the age of 60, then you might need to take whatever number that it gives you and then increase it by 25% to account for your age. So like, let's say you get the result of 100 grams of protein, then you should probably be aiming for closer to 125 grams of protein. That way you can account for the increased protein breakdown as we get older. Okay, so that's the first tip, and that's a really, really big important one. But the second one is to choose mostly nutrient-dense sources. So this is actually like the main thing we talk about in the new meal plan. I want to actually flip to the page. Actually, it's across a bunch of different pages, so I won't really be able to flip to all the pages. But in the new 6-week summer meal plan, our limited release meal plan for this year, we talk about and break down the best sources of nutrient dense, not only proteins, but generally speaking, the most nutrient dense foods that researchers have found really exist in the world. What's cool is that these foods are very readily available, and most of them are actually protein sources. So if you center your meals around these protein sources, you're knocking off both your protein, which is great, you're hitting the amount of protein you need, but then you're also really packing in the micronutrients. Now, this matters because the micronutrients not only help from like a general health perspective, like, yes, we all do want to be healthy while we're also achieving a fat loss goal. But in order to also optimize for a fat loss goal, you need those micronutrients as well. Those micronutrients literally fuel different fat breakdown systems. It fuels the energy providing systems within our cells. And if we don't have those, then we can't really produce energy as efficiently from our internal fat or even internal carbohydrates in the form of glycogen. So you want to make sure that you're not only getting protein, you're getting macronutrients, but you're also getting those that are really dense in micronutrients so that you can get the best of both worlds. So some examples are like beef is one of those top 10 most micronutrient dense foods that is readily available, very high in iron, which a lot of women are very low in. Yeah, very high in iron, very high in zinc, which is also very important for our immune system. And it's something that's both nutrient dense and rich in protein. And then there's also eggs. Like eggs are one of those top 10, and they are so rich in so many micronutrients. I actually have a video coming out about that soon, my experience of eating 3 eggs every day for the past like 12 months. But it's been such a game changer for my skin health. It's because of those micronutrients in addition to the macronutrients of protein. You want to make sure that you're getting both of those, the macro and the micro, and you do that by eating the most nutrient dense and centering your protein intake around the most nutrient dense source of protein. So have a full breakdown with the food list in the 60 plan for the most nutrient dense options. You also see them scattered throughout the different recipes as well within this year's meal plan too. So it makes it really easy to get those in. But there's also vegetarian and plant-based sources. So if you are vegetarian or plant-based, there's options for you. You just really need to make sure that you're getting specific on the type of strategies you use. I have, because this was something I really wanted to make sure that I got in for my vegan and vegetarian peeps. I have very detailed breakdowns of the vegan and vegetarian tips on how to either combine certain foods or different supplements that you might want to consider in order to make up for what you're missing from some foods. But it goes deep dive into what you should be looking out for. So that's on page 24 and 25. So if you are plant-based, look out for that and check out the food list within the program too. If you guys haven't read through the program yet, make sure you do that. There's so much information to help support your goals. It's insane. Okay. And then another tip to speed up your results, to account for your age. So we kind of talked about this in, I think it was the first tip, but you want to make sure that you're actually accounting for your age and those who are about 50, 60, 70, etc. When you're over the age, roughly about 50 years old or postmenopausal, that's when we tend to see that protein needs really increase because that increased breakdown of muscle. If you aren't accounting for this, if you aren't actually increasing your protein intake, you're going to just keep seeing muscle breakdown. You could still be seeing issues with osteoporosis or just your bone density going down because you're not getting enough protein. All of that from the health perspective, obviously not great. From a body composition perspective, it's going to continue to slow your metabolism if you aren't getting enough protein because your muscle mass is going down, which is the main thing that's going to dictate your metabolism. And when we have this big protein gap between how much we need to be eating for our bodies to optimize our body's health and wellness versus how much we're actually getting, that can really increase our sugar cravings. So the closer you get to actually meeting those protein needs, the more satiated you get from your meals, the less sugar cravings you experience. But the further you get away from the amount of protein you actually need, the more sugar cravings, the more hunger, and the harder it is to actually achieve your goals. So going back to that protein calculator, if you are over the age of 50, then you'll probably want to multiply that by like whatever your result is so that you can increase your intake by 25% to account for that loss. Okay. And then if you are finding that you're having trouble getting in more protein, because I know it can be tricky for some, first of all, you want to make sure you're centering all of your meals around those more micronutrient protein sources. But these are some easy ways to sneak in more protein. So ground meats are a really great option because ground meats are very easy to break down, easier to chew. I personally find, especially like if you didn't grow up eating meat, that ground meats are easier to eat more protein from than like a steak. Because steak you have to chew a lot of, and the longer you're chewing it, the longer you're allowing your satiety hormones to raise as a result of eating that protein. Plus, you just get tired of eating at a certain point if you're constantly chewing for a long time. So if you're having trouble getting in more protein because maybe you're relying on something like steak or other harder to chew types of proteins, switching over to ground meats like ground beef, ground chicken, ground turkey, canned tuna, which isn't really ground, but like it's easier to eat. Actually, talk about that tip in just a second. All of those make it so you can fit in more protein easier. High quality protein powder. So obviously you want to first center your meals around something like the meats, the yogurts, the cheese, or those plant-based options that I do talk about in the program. But then if you find that you're missing that gap, if you still have that gap and you just can't physically fit in more protein, very easy way to get more in addition to those micronutrient dense sources, is a high quality protein powder. The most studied option is going to be whey. We use 100% whey protein isolate to make sure that we don't get as much lactose, because lactose can cause gut irritation for some people. Whey isolate is essentially like zero lactose, but just like trace amounts in there. A lot of people who are lactose intolerant do quite well with a whey protein isolate. If you are having trouble getting that in, adding like a scoop of whey protein isolate into your smoothie, it's a really great way to do that. Or like we have recipes using Greek yogurt where you can stir the whey protein into your Greek yogurt to really up the protein content, in addition to having that micronutrient dense source of protein. So very easy way to sneak that in while also getting the micronutrients. Of course, we have our vanilla and chocolate and unflavored protein powder that is zero added sugar. So if you guys want to check that out, we have it, I think, linked down description below. If not, you can find it on my website at autumnlnutrition.com.shop. Excuse me, autumnlnutrition.shop. Okay, Greek yogurt or skyr is another easy way to fit in more protein, especially if you're used to having yogurt. So regular yogurt is pretty low in protein. It's only about like 8 grams per cup versus Greek yogurt or skyr have about like 20 to 25 grams per cup. With skyr, you can get 30 grams of protein with just 1 1/4 cups. With Greek yogurt, you can get 30 grams with 1 1/2 cups. So they're very dense in protein. Canned tuna, like I mentioned, another easy one, and it's also pre-cooked, so you just like grab it out of the pantry. Literally had this for lunch yesterday. Very easy. And depending on the brand that you have, the one I use, which is a low mercury brand, uh, Safe Catch has 42 grams of protein per can. So really easy way to bump up your protein. And then cottage cheese. If you guys have been watching my channel, you know I love cottage cheese. I have a viral cottage cheese recipe on my YouTube channel. Cottage cheese is similar to skyr in how much protein it has. It's about 1 1/4 cup of cottage cheese will give you about 30 grams of protein. And it just tastes so good. It's pre-done, like you don't have to cook it. So easy. I love cottage cheese. And very nutrient dense. Whole milk is actually one of the foods that's most nutrient dense foods in the world, especially with the calcium amount. So it's a great option for that. Okay, the fourth tip is to resistance train 2 to 4 times per week. And the type of exercise you're doing or the type of resistance training that you're doing will also determine how quickly or the type of results that you'll see. So there's a lot of different forms of resistance training. I love going to the gym and hitting the squat rack and doing deadlifts, but you don't have to be doing that. Although I will say traditional strength training will likely give you the fastest results, especially for women, because women aren't as typically as often hitting something like the squat rack or doing like deadlifts, more of the traditional lifts. Those types of training. I mean, you guys see me. I'm not like super muscular, but you I know that's something that people get concerned about at times of like doing the heavier training and like getting bulky. It is very, very, very hard to put on muscle, like very, very, very hard. You're not going to accidentally get bulky from increasing your traditional strength training or doing something like traditional strength training. If anything, it results in a little bit more muscle that increases your metabolism and just makes you feel stronger and look more toned. I love strength training for all those reasons, but there's a lot of other types of resistance training if traditional strength training isn't your cup of tea. There's calisthenics, which is more like body weight style. You can think like air squats and push-ups. Also totally has its place when you do a proper type of program. Group fitness classes is another great option, depending on, again, like how good it is. You want to be careful. There's some really great ones, some really not so great ones. Ideally, you want to try and do ones that are focused on more strength and resistance training. But any type of exercise is better than nothing. So if you like love a certain class, it's the only class that you want to do, otherwise you're not going to work out, just stick with it. But if you're looking to optimize your results, then look for classes that focus more on resistance training. Use things like dumbbells or bands or some type of calisthenic style training. There's really great quality fitness apps or programs online. If you're looking for an app, the app that I like is called Sweat. It's just like Sweat, Sweat. They have a couple different programs in there that are progressive, meaning like they help to challenge you over time, which helps give you better results than just doing the same thing over and over. I've been loving Pilates lately as well. I just recently added that in during my pregnancy, and it was huge for me and my core strength. If you do something like, I think it's called Legree Pilates that I'm doing, but it's more like strength focused Pilates. That can also be a great option if you want, again, more of a class style. Certain types of yoga that also focus on adding in weights can be great. TRX is another great one. My husband, while working from or not working from home, while being on paternity leave and not really being able to leave the house because we have two kids here that are very young, he's been using a TRX in our backyard and still being able to get a pretty good workout in with that. And then resistance bands is another great option, especially if you are brand new to exercise or like recovering from some type of injury. Resistance bands are great to add some resistance without it being too much on your joints. But again, just choose something that you enjoy, choose something you know you can stick with, choose something that fits your goals, and that fits where you're at your fitness journey too. All right. And then the fifth tip to help speed up your results is to eat the right glycemic load. Now, I didn't specifically say eat low glycemic load because there's a case for why you might want to eat medium or high glycemic load foods. This really just depends on your goal. From my experience, and this is what I actually have in our body recomposition program, this is what I did to achieve my 20-pound postpartum weight loss goal, is to focus on low glycemic load carbohydrates only during the fat loss period when that's your main focus of your wellness journey. When you focus on low glycemic load, the type of foods or carbohydrates rather that you're focusing on are those that don't greatly spike your blood sugar. These help to keep you more satisfied. They tend to be more micronutrient dense. They also tend to be higher in fiber and they tend to really fill you up. So these are like leafy greens, a lot of different types of fruits, actually, pretty much all fruits except for a full banana is going to be low glycemic load. Things like onions and garlic and cruciferous veggies. There's just a whole huge list of low glycemic load options. Again, I do have full food lists within, I don't think I can find it as quickly as I'd like to. There's full food lists within the program. So if you wanted to actually like create your own recipes or create your own meals using ingredients that you want to use, you could just stick to those options. I think I'm about to come to it. Yep, here it is. So this is a great page to reference the glycemic load chart. So when you are focused on actually primarily burning fat, you want to stick to the low glycemic load. But when you have either maintenance or if you are looking to increase your muscle mass a bit, our muscle does a little better with eating a little bit more dense carbohydrate sources, especially after or before the workout. That helps to repair our muscle. It helps to refuel our muscle after the workout. So that's where the case can be made to not only have some medium glycemic load, which would be things like some sweet potato, some like real fermented whole wheat sourdough, various beans, but also some high glycemic load. And again, this really depends on what you're looking for with your fitness goals. But especially if you are lifting heavier weights or if you're doing higher intensity exercise, then adding in strategically around your exercise, those higher glycemic load options could really help to improve your recovery as well. So you just have to make sure you're eating the right amount or right type rather of carbohydrates based on what your goal is. So I also go into that within the program. So make sure you check that out for a little more detail and for the food list as well. And then I have a little pro tip. So I don't know, like for those of you guys who are new or maybe haven't used one of my programs before, I love to make sure that the recipes that are within each program are really easy to adjust based on not only your dietary preferences, but also your goals. So you'll see here that I have a little key on each one right here and here. And it tells you like what type of goal it's going to be best for. And if it's not best for every single goal, how you can make the swaps to make it fit your goal. So if you're carb sensitive or if your goal is primarily to lose body fat, then here's an example of one of the recipes from the program for the mole tacos. Here's what you could do to adjust the recipe to make it fit your goals versus if you have high activity level, if you're an athlete, here's the one that you could do to make it better fit your goals as well. So that way you can not only like maybe make one meal for your full family, but then easily make swaps depending on like what your husband's trying to achieve versus what you're trying to achieve, or your kids who are like soccer players for their high school team. You can make those easy swaps that are still, so you guys are still all eating the same meal, but you're able to tailor it to your goals. Wow, that was a lot of talking. That was like 30 minutes straight. Usually it doesn't go that long, but I wanted to make sure I went into a lot of detail for this, and I'm going to answer some questions. So make sure that you put your question mark or put your question in the chat with 4 question marks before and after, and I'll get to them. Um, but otherwise, if you guys want to join the challenge, you can find the meal plan link down description below. I think I also have it popped up as a product right here somewhere. It is only available for purchase until the end of the 6-week challenge. Once you own it for life. But you want to make sure you grab it with all the new recipes before it's gone. Okay, let's see. I'm going to take a sip of water and try and answer some of these questions. Um, Oh, Ryan, I started this today. I don't have Facebook, so I'll be doing it on my lonesome. If you don't have Facebook, which we do have a private Facebook group with, I think it's like over 22,000 members in there, very supportive group. So I recommend just like joining Facebook just to join that group because it is so great. But if you don't, we still have the weekly live stream, so tune in and you can hang out with all of us every week during the challenge right here. Okay, Juliana, great question. Can I add a fiber supplement to the smoothies like inulin or psyllium husk and collagen? So collagen isn't a fiber supplement, but for psyllium husk and inulin, I personally don't love using fiber supplements. And the reason why is because you can get a lot of fiber from really nutrient dense foods. And in fact, some of the most nutrient dense foods are also going to be very high in fiber. And from my experience, if you start to, or when somebody starts to add in fiber from like supplements where it's just that isolated form of the food, or not even food, the fiber, it makes it so people tend to not focus on getting as much from their actual food and aren't prioritizing those higher fiber, nutrient dense food sources. The benefits of fiber are typically going to be better when you also are in conjunction getting the nutrients from that food that it's originally coming from. I also just have found issues where some people can get like bloating or GI distress with the additional fiber. And I just really haven't seen a benefit. Like, I'm not convinced that it's really worth it to add in a fiber supplement. If you want to, if it works for you, you absolutely can. And adding it into something like the smoothie would be an easy way to do that. But I like to get my fiber from whole food sources instead. Uh, Hello, do you believe in the cardio zones? So there are, like for those of you guys who don't know, there's different zones of cardio, like zone 1, zone 2. A lot of people are talking about zone 2, which is kind of like that steady state cardio. There's benefits to all these different zones. You don't necessarily just want to always be in one zone. And it also depends on like where you're at in your fitness journey. So for example, those who are just starting on their fitness journey tend to do a lot better staying in like that lower, like zone 2 option to really focus on helping to boost their cardiovascular fitness first. But then as you go along in your journey, there's a lot of reasons why you might want to, from a body composition, from an athletic position, and also just from a general health position, to occasionally add in like those higher intensity interval trainings. So it's not like one size fits all. You just want to make sure that you're using these, just like with the glycemic load, just like with protein, the type and amount of different cardio zones that fit your goals and where you're at in your journey. All right. Hello, Katie. Okay, such a great question. How much protein can I absorb at once? Yesterday I had 150 grams for dinner. I'm very curious what you ate, first of all. Like, serious question. What did you eat at dinner? How much of it? Like, what was involved? Because 150 grams is a lot. Usually, in order for people to get that high amount of protein, they're adding in a lot of ultra processed forms of protein or just ultra processed foods in order to physically eat that much, because that can be really hard to get that much protein. If you did, very impressed. But to answer your actual question, there was used to be an idea or a thought or a theory rather that we could only absorb about 20 to 30 grams of protein at one meal. There was a very recent study, I think it was in 2024, that found that this is not true at all. In fact, they had people eat about 100 grams of protein after a meal, Key thing to note is it was also after an exercise, after exercising rather, and all of that protein was actually used and absorbed as protein. It wasn't actually converted into sugar or used as sugar. So it just like I like to recommend splitting it up between those 3 meals, so that you're not necessarily about absorption because clearly we can actually absorb all that protein at once. But it's more so to make sure that you're not getting so full at that one meal that you're not able to eat the other important parts of the meal, like the fiber rich foods or the fat rich foods as well. So hope that answers your question. I can't ramble on that. But to answer your question, you can absorb at least 100 grams of protein, at least post exercise at that meal and use it as a protein. Elaine, love the lentil bruschetta recipe. Me too. If you guys haven't seen that one yet from the new 6 week summer meal plan, that is like my all time favorite one from this meal plan. So good, like so easy to prep for multiple days too. Uh, hello from Texas. Hello. Uh, I can't have any dairy. Just got off. Now I can't do your program. I love the cottage cheese waffles. So I actually have swaps, dairy-free swaps for all of the different recipes. Like even the yogurt bowl options, I have swaps that you can do to use instead of like a dairy option. So even if you are dairy-free, this is again, we're reading the program, reading the different swaps within the recipes. It's very crucial so you know how you can actually make those swaps to better fit your lifestyle. So if you're like allergic to dairy, then there's a great swap for you in there too. Um, Okay, and I have your smoothies at lunch every day. How do I make it so that they have more protein? I need around 40 grams per meal. The couple different ways I like to do it, either adding in yogurt, adding in cottage cheese. You could do something if you're plant-based, they have a plant-based style yogurts, which is another option, and then of course protein powder. So to get 40 grams, a good combo would be like you could do like 1.5 cup of Greek yogurt or skyr, and then add in like 1 scoop of protein powder. That would easily cover 40 grams of protein right there. Kefir is another way. So if you wanted to sneak in some kefir, 8 ounces has I believe 8 grams of protein. So you could use that as part of your base as well to get a little bit more protein. But the way I always like to think of it, if you can do dairy, doing like 1 to 1.5 cups of Greek yogurt or skyr, and then combining that with 1 to 2 scoops of protein powder, and that will give you the roughly 40, even a little bit more to 50 possibly grams of protein at that smoothie. Uh, hello, Skills Many. Elaine, is it okay to add extra veggies at lunch and dinner plus fruit for dessert? Yeah, so if you want more veggies, especially those low glycemic load, and you're still when you're eating your protein amounts, if you want more veggies, absolutely, because those low glycemic load options, when they're actually paired with protein, you're going to eat until you're satisfied. It's not going to make you overeat typically, as long as they aren't like ultra processed forms or like for example if you had dried fruit is technically a fruit but it's going to be a high glycemic load option that makes it really easy to eat beyond our body's needs. But if you have like you want to add more broccoli, you want to add more kale, you want to add more carrots, something along those lines along with your actual protein that you're eating, then that's totally fine. Stacy, for desserts, can we only use those in this plan or other recipes for desserts you have previously shared? So I do have the dessert recipes in the program, but I also recently shared a video and I also have a blog post portion for it too of some really great desserts that won't work against your goals. So in that video and in that blog, I talk about like which ones are best to, based on your goals. But I think it was from like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So just look that up, or you can type into like go to the channel and then there's a little search bar within my YouTube channel and you can type in just desserts and that recent video, I think it's like 15 desserts that won't ruin your goals, will pop up and that's a great option to incorporate too. It's a good tip. Brody, I sous vide my meat and it's just as easy to eat as ground meat. I actually don't have a sous vide option, sous vide machine. Is that what it's called? I don't know. But that is great if you have that. Good tip. Camille, hi. She's been doing strength Pilates too, and I love it. Yeah. I think it's called Legree. So if you guys like Pilates, but you want to have a little bit more strength involved, I think it's called Legree Pilates is a great option. Okay, another great question. Ren says she's 53 and has a true dairy allergy. Can I use a clean bone broth protein instead? So, bone broth protein actually is not a complete protein. It's going to be more similar to like a collagen protein. So, instead, like, egg protein would be great. It isn't as high in leucine, the amino acid, that is very important for stimulating muscle protein synthesis or keeping muscle mass rather, as whey protein. That's why whey is the one that we use. But option for those who are dairy free. There's also meat proteins. They also are typically not going to be as high in leucine as whey, but if you do have that true dairy allergy, then like the meat or like beef proteins and the egg proteins are both good options. Mm. Oh, thanks, Elizabeth. The meals have been delicious. Thank you. Okay, Heidi, I'm eating 30 plus grams of protein, but still hangry. You're probably not eating enough for your body's needs, or it's probably not the right type of protein. So I talked about this earlier in how your results can range. One, if you're not eating enough for your individual body, or if you're not eating the right types or quality of protein. So instead of just like looking at general protein, like let's say if you add up all your food in a calorie tracker and you look at how many protein or how much protein you had that meal, it's going to count the protein from everything, like peanut butter, like the protein that's in broccoli. All of those proteins are not high quality proteins. They're just low quality, poorly absorbed proteins. They don't result in the same benefit as eating protein from, like, let's say, beef or yogurt or eggs, or even tempeh for a plant based option. So that's where I like to purely focus on the high quality sources of protein when I'm quote counting my protein or where the protein's coming from. So I do have those full lists in the program, but some great options are like beef, turkey, chicken, eggs, fish, yogurt, skyr, tempeh mentioned for plant-based option. And then also making sure that you're actually getting enough for your body. So you check out that protein calculator that I have and see if it's somewhere in the range for your body's needs. And I think I have the protein calculator linked down description below, but again, it's on my website as well. And if you just like rewind a little bit to earlier in this live stream, then you'll be. I do think I have it in the description below. Uh, Yeah, Mary, absolutely. With it being so hot out, can we eat fruit? Yes, I have a lot of recipes that include fruit. There's a lot of fruits that are actually low glycemic load, so when you balance it properly with eating up protein, it can be a really great option for helping you achieve your goals. Like my favorite one that I just shared on my YouTube channel, the summer protein yogurt bowl, actually uses both peach as well as blueberries. So there's multiple recipes within, especially the breakfast recipe options that use fruit within the meal plan. So make sure you check them out. There's a lot of delicious ones. Uh, Okay. Liza, would you recommend unsweetened plain soy milk? I personally don't because of all of the anti-nutrients in soy, especially something like soy milk, where it's typically not going through the fermentation process to break down those anti-nutrients. Instead, something like tempeh, which is fermented soy, helps to break down those anti-nutrients. So it's not going to have as much of a gut irritant. You're going to absorb the nutrients from your food a lot better, a lot easier. And it's a good source of plant-based protein for those who are plant-based. Instead, if you want to use some type of like milk alternative for like smoothies, for example, or for like making chia pudding, then using like almond milk, hemp seed milk is a good option. You can use cashew milk. There's a lot of other options that are going to be better. Or you can use coconut milk. So just make sure it's coconut milk from a carton, not from a can. They're very different things. I also have a very easy 5-minute recipe on how to make coconut milk. And it's so cheap and easy. Just type into YouTube how to make coconut milk. I think my video is like the first one that pops up. Or you just type like how to make coconut milk autumn baits and it should pop up. So easy. Oh my gosh, I need some water. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple more questions here. Okay. Elizabeth, why is collagen not a complete protein? And I love it in the summer protein bowl. Thank you. So collagen just is missing or low in some key amino acids, which are like the things that actually, the building blocks that actually make up protein. It's low in certain amounts that make it a complete protein. So in order to be considered complete protein, we need to have all of the essential amino acids and we need them in the right amount. So if a protein source is either completely lacking it, like doesn't have it at all, or if it's super low in it, then it's considered incomplete and it's not going to have the same impact on the body as a complete protein. Doesn't mean doesn't have its place, doesn't have its benefits. There's a lot of great benefits to having collagen, which is why I do like to use it, but it's just not really the same thing as having like a complete protein, like either the yogurt or the whey protein powder. So yeah, that's similar to like the bone broth protein. It's going to be like similar in breakdown to like the collagen as well. Brody, on top of it, answered it for me. Hello. Greetings from Bangladesh. I bought your 7-day detox years back. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, let me see. Glen, great tip there too. Cottage cheese is good. Smoothies add protein. Yeah, I have a YouTube video. I think it's like 5 ingredient high protein smoothies, and I use cottage cheese in one of them, and it's delicious. It's like the strawberry cheesecake smoothie. So good. I'm going to scroll to the bottom, see if there's any others down here. Okay, Gina, what is the difference between this summer meal plan and the last one? Literally everything. Completely different information that's building upon last year's body recomposition program. So this one's focused on those micronutrient dense foods, educating you on that and having all those food lists from there. And then also brand new meal plan, brand new recipes. So everything about it, brand new. Super excited about it. Do you recommend Fairlife milk instead of nut milk for more protein in our smoothies? I recommend if you want to use milk, just use regular whole milk, and instead getting it from other more dense sources of protein in addition to that milk. So you could use milk as a base, but then also getting like the Greek yogurt in there, which is a lot more dense in protein than something like Fairlife milk. Or having another protein source like the cottage cheese or protein powder is a great option too for more dense protein. So you're actually getting like the amount of protein you need. This goes back to what we're talking about on if you're in order to actually see the benefits of a quote high protein diet, you actually need to eat the high protein amount. A lot of us think we're eating a lot more protein than we really are. So just actually hitting the amount that our body needs is crucial. Can you guys hear how my voice is getting hoarse from talking so long? Yeah, I'm going to answer like one more question. Uh, Carol, what is isolate? So I think she's referring to whey protein isolate. So when it comes to the different whey proteins, there's a lot of different types in it. Basically, the difference between each of them is how much lactose, or one of the main differences is how much lactose is in each. So the one that's going to be lowest in lactose is a whey isolate. It's essentially zero lactose, but there's still maybe like trace amounts of lactose in there. That option is typically the best option, especially for those who are lactose intolerant. From my experience with my community, even those who are a lot of people who are lactose intolerant can still have whey protein isolate like our protein powder, and it doesn't cause GI distress. Whey isolate is also higher in protein than the other whey proteins. So like whey protein concentrate is another type of protein powder, or another type of whey protein powder rather. And it's a lower in protein, higher in lactose. So not only is it less dense in protein, it's still high in protein, but it's less dense in protein than a whey isolate, and it has more lactose than the whey isolate. So this is why a lot of people who have had whey protein in the past tended to get like GI upset or bloating from it. It's probably because they were using whey concentrate. A lot of companies will use a whey concentrate, or they'll cut their whey isolate, like do a like 60% whey isolate and the rest whey concentrate, so that they can list the whey isolate as the first ingredient within their ingredients label. They'll do that to make it so that their whey is a lot cheaper, so their profit margins are larger. But whey concentrate is the one that tends to cause more people more bloating and like GI upset because of the lactose amount. But yeah, that's like the difference between the different like wheys and like what a whey isolate is versus whey concentrate. The one that's the highest lactose amount and also typically the lowest protein is milk protein concentrate. So it's like a sliding scale. As you go higher in the density of protein for whey, you also tend to go lower in the lactose amount. So whey isolate has the most protein, lowest lactose. Whey concentrate is like the next one down, and then it's like milk protein concentrate. All right, guys. This was a lot of information. I hope you got a lot out of this because I can't speak right now because my voice is so hoarse from talking for so long. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We have next week's live stream on Monday, I believe also at 1 p.m. PST as well. So make sure you tune in. We have so much good information coming up. And if you haven't already, grab the meal plan with the over 50 brand new recipes. I do have it linked down description below. I also have it popped up as a product right here somewhere. So make sure you grab that before it's gone because a lot of really good stuff in there. All right, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.
Wait,
Oh,
someone wants to say hi. Look
well,
who
I
just woke
guess
up.
he just woke up from his nap, so you guys get a little treat. Here's Jack. If you guys haven't met, actually, I don't think I've shared a video yet with him, but here's Jack. He just woke up from his nap. Say hi, Jack. And say hi before I sign off. Hi. Are you gonna cry? He's deciding if he wants to cry, smile, or poo. Typical life of a newborn. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Say bye. Bye. Okay, he chooses cry. All right, bye.